Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode with my brother Todd. We've been friends for 5 or 6 years now. And if I ever have questions about communications, whether it's in the boardroom, the bedroom, at home, Todd is the guy that I go to. So, guys, it's going to be, if you want to find out who, even to become a better speaker, communicator, especially public speaking, Todd's going to be dropping some knowledge bombs. And I'm offering something at the end, if you stay till the end, something that is guaranteed 300% ROI, guaranteed if you stay till the end of this video. So, guys, get your socks ready, get your paper and pen ready. This is going to blow your mind. Todd is one of my favorite people, all-time leadership expert, keynote speaker. He's a Swiss Army knife of communication. Todd, my brother, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Richard. It is so awesome to be on here. And I don't know, the build up like that, the bar's set pretty high, but we're going to have a great conversation. And the only room you didn't mention was the bathroom. Communication is important sometimes in there too. But anyway, it's great to be here. Love the topic. Love all the things that you've been doing. And it's hard to believe it's taken this long to connect like this. But I've been looking forward to this for months. This is great.
I love it. So, okay, first question. Because even though if somebody's seen Todd now, it hasn't always been sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, and Skittles. So what is your definition of resiliency?
It's really the ability to deal with change. I think, we had a big change a few years ago, but every day in our lives we have change. And it's how do we adapt to that? How do we look internally through our own self-awareness to help handle that? How do we rely on those 5 people who are closest to us, our teams, our families, to get through that? But resiliency is really how we battle through change and use those resources that are at our fingertips to help get through that.
I love it. And that's something we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the 5 people, how important they are. We're going to be talking about Mr. John Maxwell, one of the nicest persons I've ever had the opportunity and pleasure to meet. But first of all, tell us a little bit about Todd. Where'd you come from? Where'd you grow up? And how did you get into this whole crazy world of communication?
Oh, sure, Richard. Well, I've lived in Wisconsin my entire life. Many different communities, many different homes and apartments and duplexes, but I've been in the state my whole life. Born in the capital city in Madison, in the corner of Park and Regent. Well, actually, there's a hospital there. I wasn't born out in the street. But as it turns out, I was born about a block away from one of my favorite hangouts when I went to college at UW-Madison. So how ironic is that? But I've been around the state, spent a lot of my life teaching. That's what I got my degrees in from Madison and UW-Platteville. Spent a lot of my life in the nonprofit world, raising money primarily, fundraising and creating relationships there. And then I got into the Chamber of Commerce world. And after I get into that, I get introduced to this guy named John Maxwell, I think it is, something like that.
I heard I think he might have wrote a book.
I think he did. I think I might have read that book. I think I read that book 80 times, or maybe it was 80 different books. I don't know which it is. But yeah, I got connected with a great friend through that. And about 2.5 years ago, I took the step at age 63 to jump out of the corporate world and really lean into my calling, my passion, and that's the whole leadership area. And a big part of that, as you suggested, Richard, is all about communication. And I had good experiences, I had great experiences, I had lousy experiences. I had 17 different jobs, and not all of them ended in Todd's favor. And that really has helped me to get where I am today, as well as some successes I had along the way.
Okay, so I just for some reason sometimes things just come to me. And once I knew we were coming on today, of course I do my due diligence. I spent about 10 hours just finding everything about Todd. And I'm that guy. I'm a creeper. I'm following you on all your social, obviously, but I went down a wormhole and I started Googling things about Wisconsin. I started going back into the Packers history, and I found a quote by the great coach, Mr. Bryant, and he talked about how you can win a game or you can lose a game in the second half of the game. And sometimes, like you at 63, you started on your mission. I started mine at 6 years ago, age 49, and I think it's amazing that we have the ability now to have a second half at life. We're honored and God's given us a second half. So a lot of people think, oh, it's 50. I'm done. I'm over with. It's a wrap. But a lot of people don't realize that Mr. Ray Kroc, started his at such an older age. The guy, Colonel Sanders started 60 something. So we're in our prime still. And a lot of people have already given up, and it's not even halftime yet.
Well, cruising to retirement was never anything that really piqued my interest. My dad was blessed with a very great career and a great retirement, and he's lived it to the max. Matter of fact, he'll be celebrating 96 years this September, along with my mom, will be 95. But I never was interested in cruising into retirement. I don't even know if I'll ever retire. And people say, well, Todd, how long are you going to do this? And I go, well, until I can't. And I don't know what that means either. I really enjoy it. I enjoy getting up every morning. Now, I also enjoy my time, in the water. I love being in the water, the beach, whatever. But I really enjoy making an impact on people. And it just hit me when I was 63. Some people, it hits them when they're 23. And I'm trying to be a good role model for I have 4 daughters. That's how my hair is the color it is. Try to be a role model for them and show them that, it doesn't matter your age, gender, whatever. Do what you want to do. You start with a job out of college, then maybe you find a career. But when you find your calling, that's when things really start clicking. And I believe firmly that's what I found here in my solopreneurship, as I call it.
And I agree because, I'm a veteran, 23 years active duty in National Guard. And I had to start over because once I had to hang up the uniform, well, now you got to reinvent and reimagine your life. And a lot of people are scared to start reinventing and reimagining your life. And I'm like, well, what else am I going to do? Am I just going to give up? Well, and I'm writing another book. It's called Too Dumb to Quit. I just don't quit. I just keep going like the Energizer Bunny. So when you started at the age 60, you're getting it into your mindset, 61, 62, that you're going to branch out on your own. Did you ever have some people in your community be like, why don't you just sit back, complain about all your aches and pains like the rest of us?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Richard, I want to thank you for your service and your service to our country. That's incredible and awesome. And a friend of mine actually who also served in the service, Don Gleason, he does a lot of career transition stuff for the military because that is a difficult transition. But there were naysayers in my life that kind of challenged me and said, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this now? What's this going to accomplish for you? And I just, I politely smiled and said, well, this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. And part of being a successful entrepreneur, it's not only attracting your target audience or those people that want to follow you, but it's also repelling people that aren't interested in what you do. I think sometimes people get all wrapped up when they, if they do an email campaign and, 10 people unsubscribe from their emails. I think that's great because those people aren't wasting my time and I'm not wasting their time. And there's someone out there for them. Maybe it's not me, but maybe it's Richard, or maybe it's somebody else that they'll resonate with. But I just kind of plow through that. And again, it's where I want to go, where I want to be on a mission that brings in my faith, my family, and what I truly believe in my heart of hearts that can make a difference. And whether I impact one person or whether I impact 1,000 people, that's not, the numbers aren't significant. It's just that I'm making an impact, and I know I am, and that's what really keeps me going.
Well, one thing I got to say is you have to be a great communicator. If you have 5 women in your house and you got to use the bathroom sometime. So you had to be a really great communicator just to be able to get in there. So I think that was a great training ground right there. That's why I mentioned the bathroom. Yeah, with we always had, I think, at least 2, maybe sometimes 2.5 bathrooms, and I don't think I ever had to go outside, but it was tight sometimes. But yeah, you
you learn to share, you learn to communicate, you learn to figure out priorities. Actually, maybe that's a good book, right? How the Bathroom Taught Me to Communicate. But anyway, you're absolutely right.
That's a bestseller right there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So, okay, so talk about your first foray. What'd you go to college for? Why did you choose what you choose? And what was your first foray into the corporate world?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Verona, and then decided I was going to go to the University of Wisconsin, 15 minutes down the road. And my dad worked for the athletic department, and I said I'd like to do something with the sports teams. I was never good enough to play, but so he found me a gig as a basketball manager, and I worked with the Badger basketball team. Bill Cofield happened to be the coach, the first African American coach in the Big Ten, and learned some great experiences. Then I'm like, well, if I'm going to coach, I got to do something else. I'm going to have to teach. So I decided to get my teaching degree, and I got it in social studies. And the reason I went into social studies was a professor I had, his last name was LeMasters, kind of frumpily dressed, wrinkled shirt and sport coat and kind of shuffled hair. And he wrote a book, Marriage and the Family, and it was a study he did on a bar in Madison. And he was in there as just a participant observer and learned a lot about these people and their marriages. Again, communication, right? How people communicated with others. I thought, well, shoot, if he can make money writing a book about a bar and I can coach, I'm going to go into social studies. So I got a social studies degree and went on to do some teaching and coaching early on in my career. Started at Wayland Academy in Beaver Dam, a private school, taught at another public school, had some really good experiences, started a couple programs, started a study skills program at Monroe. And then I got a taste of the nonprofit world. I got a chance to work with the University of Wisconsin Athletic Department fundraising. And boy, was that a great experience. I could get on the field on Saturdays for football games. And that was I was like a kid in the candy store. But developed my nonprofit fundraising skills and did a number of those different opportunities throughout my career. I'd stay between 2 and 5 years at different places, learned a lot, picked up a lot about along the way. And again, learned some good leadership and some bad leadership lessons on how the workplace culture can really impact the people that are in that culture. So that was kind of my trajectory through my careers.
Now, you also, was a basketball coach.
Yep.
So talk to me about that, because I had a young man, a friend of mine. He was a coach, but he was a women's basketball coach. And he told me that if he can get 5 women together, all agreeing on the same thing, he could beat any basketball team in the world. Because once you get 5 people, and I think there's something about the number 5 that's really interesting. But if you can get 5 people on a team all going, pushing in the same direction, you could become unstoppable. So what are your thoughts, and how was it teaching those young people to work as a team and not really worry about so much as your statistic, but as the team goes?
Oh, absolutely. And I had a chance to work with, I've coached youth basketball down to 4th or 3rd grade, actually. And I've coached college basketball as well and everything in between. I've had the blessing to coach both women and men, and every situation, is unique in terms of the type of people, but trying to get those. And actually it's in some ways it's more than the 5, but the 5 who were on the floor at the time to do the right things. One of the great lessons was I coached at UW-Platteville with Bo Ryan. Bo has been inducted to every Hall of Fame basketball wise. We were down at UW-Platteville. I started with him. And one of the first practices, one of the players got hurt. There were 3 courts side by side. We're in the middle main court, and the kid went down and got hurt. So everybody's kind of looking around, and had this look. And he said, "All right, guys, let's go over here." So we moved over to the next court, and the trainer came out and worked with the player. And the message was, we're going to keep going on as a team, no matter who we have on the court. And we have people who are designated to help people, like a trainer to help somebody who's hurt. I'm not a trainer. The players aren't trainers. He's going to do his job. Let's us continue to do our job, and let's continue to build this team. So that was really it seems kind of simple and silly, but that was really a kind of a big lesson for me. And eventually we built that program where the players were coaching the players, because we had this system, and they started coaching themselves. Yep. And we reveled in assists and rebounds and the total team. we didn't put a lot of statistics up on the boards or talk about points. We talked about those statistics that made a difference on a team. So those are some good early lessons for me.
And I'm a big basketball geek. I love basketball. I was actually playing NBA 2K4 like 3 o'clock last night. And when I play, I always want to be the assist leader. I'd rather give somebody else the ball and worry about them scoring. I just want to be the assist guy. But one thing, as you're talking, you reminded me, I just read an interview with, it was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman.
Oh,
and
wow.
They said the whole time Dennis Rodman was on the team, the three of them never spoke, only if it was on the court.
Yeah.
But they would just look at each other and know what the other person was doing, and they policed themselves.
Well, that was. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Richard.
No, and I think that's something that you said that you taught is if you have a good enough system and teach good enough, especially players, they'll start to police themselves, where you could just sit back and then give pointers, but they know how to run the system. So talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people think, well, I got to be on them, be on them, and be on them. But if you watch like old Bulls or old Lakers, Phil sat like this the whole game. He didn't say a word. Everybody else was pretty much running in the triangle. So talk about that a little bit. That in business and basketball.
No, I think you're right. When your team is functioning well, you can watch and observe them and sit back in some regards. Now, Bo would get excited, and he taught the officials on and off again, but that's different. The kids, they knew what they needed to do. We practiced it, but he always said practice makes permanent. They did what they needed to do in practice to be doing the right things. And then game time, that's kind of like their time. That's like the test, right? That's like the final exam for the week, right? Here's your opponent and do your best, because we've taken all these quizzes along the way. And once you cross the line inside that rectangle in the basketball court, we were all one group, thinking alike and thinking together. Outside of there, if like you mentioned with the interview with Jordan and Pippen and Rodman, if you don't hang out with the guys, that's fine. Now, it turned out that our guys hung out quite a bit together, but if you don't, that's your choice. That's fine. We're all different. But when we're in the basketball court, we're of one mind. And in that particular case, it was, the UW Platteville teams. And Bo went on to win 4 national championships there for D3 and a number of conference championships. Matter of fact, Richard, my claim to fame was when I left there, 4 years later, they won a conference championship. So thanks to the fact I left, they did really well. I go to Monroe High School. I coached there for 2 years. I brought up 3 sophomores my first year. So I left after they were juniors. The next year they finished second in the state. So people love to see me leave their programs, because they really, but I think what I helped do obviously is build those programs up and instill the qualities, the character, the skills, the resilience. You mentioned that before, building all those things in the players. So when anything comes up in the court, they're really able to handle it.
So pretty much you were the Miami Dolphins of the basketball, where everybody that went to New England from us made it to the Hall of Fame, but we couldn't do anything with them. So I love that. But let me ask you, because even like Phil talking about basketball or even business, you can't talk to everybody the same way. Each person has a different skill. Like you could talk to Jordan one way, Pippen one way, and Rodman another way, but you got the best out of them. So talk about that. Is each person that you talk to, whether it's in business or in your personal life, you have to talk to them different and meet them where they're at.
One of the main tools I use, Richard, it's the DISC assessment, DISC, and it's a tool. It's about a 15-minute assessment. You answer a bunch of questions. It produces a 30-page report. But what it does is exactly what you talk about, and it helps you first figure out who you are, because it's an assessment of you. But then also within the report, it shows you how can I work better with others, and how can I work better with others who have other styles, because we're all different. There's 8 billion different people in the world, and thankfully we're all different. So those differences make us better. And once we can figure out what those differences are, we can work better and more closely together, because you're absolutely right. Each player on the court is different. each staff person that reports to you or that you report to or you work alongside, each one of them is different. And that's I think that's the fun part of life, is trying to figure out all those idiosyncrasies and how can I work best with that person. Now some people use it in a way like, how can I use that person, right? But the way I like to look at it is, how can I best work with that person? How can I flex my style and understand that maybe the person is a D, they're driven, they're dominant, they're determined. That's a different style. They may run over people, but if I understand that, I just kind of get out of the way, or I follow alongside and help them along the way. So each style is so much different, and the better and quicker you can understand those styles, again, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's on the basketball court, the quicker you can get that team to work together. And yeah, and the good executives, the good coaches, the leaders understand that and understand the importance of those differences.
And I think, because I was, like I said, I was in the military for over 23 years. And for me, something that I learned, and I wish I read so many books. I think I got like 6,000 I've read so far. And I'm reading 18 books as we speak, in 2 audio books. So I can't remember all the quotes. But I think it might have been Zig Ziglar, which I love Zig. I'm a big Zig guy.
Yep.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And for like my guys, they knew Kaufman, he cares about me. He cares about my family. So if he tells me to run that way with my weapon pointed and just go, I trust him. I'm going to run through a brick wall. But I think it wasn't until people realized, I care about you. I care about your family and your future. So talk about caring. And a big one is empathy. I'm a big empathy guy. I'm the worst juror in the world. Nobody would ever go to jail because I have too much empathy. But I think we need more empathy in the world. So talk about caring and empathy in the workplace and on the court.
And I think another word too you mentioned in there, Richard, is trust. And then they really interplay and work with each other. When I took one position, and when we started there, the HR person had like a stopwatch on and counted, I mean, I'm being a little ridiculous, but counted seconds and minutes where you weren't in the office. Like if you got in at 8:03, you had to take 15 minutes of vacation time or PTO time, whatever it was, right? And I quickly saw that wasn't working. I flipped that around because I had empathy for the people, because I had kids and I wanted to see my kids play sports. And one of the people that worked with us, she had a son that played, I think it was junior high football at that time. And she said, well, would it be okay if I left at 4:15 instead of 4:30? And I'll come in. And I said, yeah, just go. Don't worry about it. I know. And what ended up happening was, those people who you gave that flexibility to and created a culture where they knew that you cared, then they gave you 2 or 3 times back what you gave them. So they may have left a half hour early and they gave another hour and a half back, and without asking, because they really respected the fact you cared for them, you cared for their family, you showed them some empathy for the situation they were in, and not only just watching kids sports, but health things as well. Just this showing that, and I think love, love is a tough word in the workplace, but I think it's just one notch above caring. And you can love people in the workplace, not the same as you would in a one-on-one relationship, like we would think, like we think of in dating or marriage or partners or things like that. But that love in the workplace, I've heard a lot of speakers, particularly through Maxwell's Live to Lead, that talked about love. Jeff Henderson has, and Ryan Leak, and Patrick Lencioni, the importance of love in the workplace. And it gets back to the quote you said, it's not how much you know, it's how much you care about people. And that makes such a big difference. And trust. So what I say is that if you have good communication, you can build that vulnerable trust, not predictive trust. I mean, I know things that I can trust you in the workplace, but the vulnerable trust that I'm willing to share. What are the challenges? I need some help, or I'm sorry, whatever the case might be. But that vulnerability and the caring really helps. The empathy helps build that trust. And once you have trust, you can do a lot of great things. And again, that's what we did on the basketball court, and that's what I've been trying to do in my business and in some of the workplaces I was in.
And I think that's a big word that gets thrown out a lot, but don't really get used a lot. Like I just celebrated 35 years of recovery without a drug or alcohol. And that's
awesome.
Something that they really harp on, that if anonymity, Like if Todd tells me something and he says, bro, it's in confidence, it'll never go anywhere. People will ask me and I'm like, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything. But people know what, okay, Kaufman, I told him something 10 years ago, and I know it's not getting out because he's the only guy I've ever told. So I know if I need anything, I can go to Kaufman. And I know if he needs something, all he's got to do is ask because I trust him. And once somebody lets you into their space or actually trust you, everything is on the table at that point, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and everybody looks at trust differently too. Some people will walk in a room and they'll trust everybody in the room, and that's fine. Some people will walk in a room and they won't trust anybody because they got to build that trust. And there's not a right or wrong, but with my personality style, I'm an I style. I'll walk in a room and I'll trust anybody, and I'll keep working on building that trust though, because it takes effort, energy, work, caring, empathy, all those things to build that trust. Also, it doesn't take much to deteriorate that trust, right? So that's why, like you said, if someone tells you something in confidence, it's in confidence, and they know that they can go to Richard, they can trust Richard, and they've got somebody they can lean on in a time when it's hard sometimes to find people you can lean on anymore, right? Because everybody wants to get the gossip out there. But that whole concept of trusting each other is so critically important.
And that and that not only goes for work, but in your family situation. Like, if my boys tell me something that I know that they don't want their mother to know, she's not going to know, because I know that once I break that trust with them, that's it. It's over. If they're struggling, or if they're dealing with addiction, or if they're dealing with anything, they're going to think back, man, I told them that one thing and he just blabbed it out. So I'm not going to trust him. And I think whether it's in, at work or at home, if you don't have that trust, just kind of like if you cheat on your partner once, that trust is gone forever. Because no matter if you get a text message or a phone call, they're going to be wondering, who can that be? So I think you have to make sure you have that trust. And like you said, it's so hard to build, but it's so easy to break, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it takes longer for other people to trust. And yeah, I've been in some situations where things hadn't gone well, and then that relationship, maybe you try to build it back up, but it's hard. It's hard when someone breaks your confidence and breaks your trust, and even more so in a family, family setting too. But it's critically important, especially as we talk about communication.
All right, so let's talk about communication, because I actually I'm speaking on Saturday. I thought I was doing a 10-minute talk, and now I'm doing a 30-minute talk. And I'm actually talking. I don't know if you've ever seen Sopranos or seen the movie The Bronx Tale. The guy that he played the young kid in The Bronx Tale, me and him are speaking together, talking about recovery and resilience. But like when I'm speaking at an event, I'll get there sometimes the night before. I'll be there a couple hours prior, meeting everybody in the audience, building up trust. So when I get up on the stage, they already know me. They've already seen me, but they didn't realize that I'm one of the speakers. So when I go to speak, they're going to listen more, because it wasn't that the guy that was just setting up the table? Wasn't he taking out the garbage a minute ago? So talk about that is, especially from stage, is building trust with the audience before you even get on that stage.
You don't have a lot of time. You're absolutely right. And even a step before that, what I'll often do, and maybe you've done this too, Richard, is I'll try to post on that organization's website and say, hey, I'm really looking forward to, coming on Saturday to speak about this topic. Hope you'll be in the room. That's one of the few good uses of social media, but let people know I'm coming. I'm excited to be there. I'm looking forward to meet them. I'll even go, to LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn more than Facebook. I'll go out and try to connect with people. If I know people who are going to be at the event, sometimes if you're the speaker, they'll give you the list of attendees. So I try to do that as well without being creepy. And so even before I start that relationship, and like you, if I can, I like to get there the night before. If there's a social event, try to get there, but definitely before I speak, I'll walk around the room beforehand, maybe get there one speaker ahead so I can kind of hear what that person says too. Because if I step on stage and I refer back to somebody earlier, that builds a level of trust too. Like, oh, this guy got here early. He was paying attention. He's tying it all together. I think that's a good tool as well. And then, trying to make that quick connection with the audience. And the best way to do that is with a story, something that relates specifically to them. And you've got an incredible story to tell, because there's a similarity, there's a common ground of the people in that room. So you want to try to get to that common ground right away, rather than some speakers, when they start, will tend to share their, what they've accomplished, like what they know. But the audience wants to hear how you care. So it gets back to that quote that you mentioned before. They want to know, why do you care, and why should I bother listening to you? I don't care if you got a PhD from Harvard and whatever. But tell me a story that I can connect with. Then you can tell me about a little bit more about who you are and about that journey.
But because like I said, I spoke last week. I got there early and I was talking to everybody. And I remember some of the stories that we talked about, and I was up there. I was like, well, me and Frank, we just had an amazing conversation just about his service. And he was like in shock that I would even remember his name and remember his story. But for me, I think that's where the magic is when we went to go. Now, don't laugh at me, okay? But I took my wife we went to go see Barry Manilow at Radio City. And
Love it.
He invited this girl up to sing, a lady to come up and sing with him, and she lost her mind. But because she sang with him, he made a mark on her for the rest of her life. And I think, like I said, I don't remember who said it, but when I go speak, they're probably never going to remember my name. They might remember what I talked about, but they'll always remember how they felt when I was talking. So talking about that is talking about, it's not really, what you say, but it's how you make people feel that are sitting in those chairs.
Yeah, there's people won't remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel, right? And that's such an important part. And I love to start when I talk. I love to ask questions at the beginning that relate to the people. But I think your idea too, and I didn't mention, I'm glad you did, of when you go around, talk to people beforehand or during a break before you speak, learn about them and recognize the people who will put together the event, if the one or two chairs of the event, whatever the case might be. But it's all about gratitude. And if you live a life of gratitude and share that with people really resonate with that. Again, sharing little stories about other people on stage, sharing what your story is, all those little things. Because like you say, people will remember how you make them feel. And once in a while, I'll get a note afterwards from somebody and say, hey, really enjoyed your presentation. And that's I don't need to be given awards. Those little accolades, though, those little notes or a text or even a handwritten note, if you're lucky enough to get one of those little things really make a difference. Because then I know I made a bond or made a connection with them, and that's what it's really all about. I must have added some value to that particular person. And like I said earlier on, I know I'm not going to impact, if I'm speaking to 1,000 people, I know I'm not going to connect with all 1,000. But if I connect with a handful or a few, whatever the number is, I know that I've made a difference in their lives because my story resonated with them. So one of the things when I speak, I go in with that mentality. I know that I'm not going to impact everybody, but I'm going to impact some people. So I want to bring my A game as best as I can, because I can make a difference for those few people.
And and that's something that I do. Like when I get on stage, first thing I say is, I'm not here for your wallet. I'm here for your heart. And then I tell them, listen, guys, what I'm going to say is not for 99% of you. So just go play on your phone, pick out your phone, go play, go search the internet, search me while you're on there. But this isn't for you. But there's one person out there that's struggling today before they got here, and they need to hear some hope. So this is for that one person. And then they all just, you see them lean in. They're like, did he just tell me that this is not for me? Well, why isn't it for me? But it kind of brings the whole level of expectation down, because you're saying, okay, this is not for you. And it's not about your wallet. Everyone, I can see the people just go, Okay, now I'm going to listen. So talk about that a little bit, because if you go on stage 99% of the time, like the Wolf of Wall Street, you're just going to get shut down. They're going to listen to you, but you're not going to get anywhere with them.
Well, it reminded me of, and I'll get to your question too, but it reminded me of John Maxwell in his books. John has a very, as you know, John has a very strong faith, and oftentimes in his books he'll share stories about his faith, and he'll say, now those of you that I have a strong faith, those of you who don't believe, you can just skip to the end of the chapter and start reading the next chapter. Well, you know darn well they're reading the rest of that, because they want to know what secret is this guy telling that I don't know about yet. But I think the whole concept of you go to give. You got to go to give. If you go to get, it's going to be a struggle. And I talk to people about networking. When they go to networking events, don't go to hand out your business card to the 40 or 100 people that are there. Go to ask them, hey, what can I do to help you? What can I do to help you grow your business? Who do you need to connect with? And that's the same thing when you're speaking, is go with the mindset of giving. I want to give folks, I want to tell them my story, because my story may resonate with them and help them where they are in their journey, rather than trying to get, sell something to them. And it doesn't mean you can't promote what you do, but if you go there with the idea of selling, you're gonna fail. If you go there with the idea of giving, you're going to succeed, and it will come back to you in multitudes.
And I agree. So we're going to talk about that, because I spend most of my time on LinkedIn now. I think we were up to almost 30,000 followers. We're a top direct voice on, but you're never going to see me. If I'm never going to send a connection request to Todd. He's going to accept and then get a 15-page dissertation about why they need to work with me. And I see it every day on LinkedIn, and I'm like, does this really work? It can't. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you send 15,000 requests out a day, it might work, but I'm like, I don't see how this actually works, especially if you call me ma'am. I'm like,
or you say, dear Todd Kuckkahn with 2 commas. It's like, yeah. Really? I mean, first of all, it's only 1 comment. Second of all, call me Todd or Mr. Kuckkahn, but don't. Yeah. That's just, I should really be making $1 billion based on all the people that have sent me, that I can make 7 figures in 3 months and doesn't cost, yeah, they just don't get the relationships, all the things we talked about. I don't want to be sold. I want to develop a relationship, and those that I have, I've done a really, I've gotten some good nuggets, some good information from. But if you come out of the gate trying to sell me something, and it's not that you can't sell on LinkedIn, but if all people see is you selling your product, people are going to tune you out. Maybe I don't know what the standard is now, every 4 or 5 posts or something like that. If you want to maybe, promote something you do and sell something, maybe that's okay. But if all people say or hear is sell, buy, and I'm going to make you a millionaire, I don't think that's effective either, Richard. I don't think that's going to work.
Well, I had lunch with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's the one that actually got me doing this. So if it wasn't for Gary, I wouldn't be the guy that I am. But he also taught me that if you promote your friends 10 times more than you promote yourself, you'll never have to promote yourself. So anytime I do a post, it's usually talking about somebody else or promoting somebody else. Mm-hmm. And for me, I believe that I'm just a guy that knows a guy. So if somebody needs a mechanic and somebody has a broke car, I put you guys together. I win and everybody wins. But worst case scenario, you guys just became friends. And absolutely. I think if you have that kind of mentality of, I'm just here to add value. And I think if you give 10 times more value than you ask, then you can ask once in a while, and people are going to show out in force when hey, this guy just keeps adding value to me and doesn't ask for anything. So when he asks for something, people just show out in force, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And and sometimes you don't hear back from people that you give to. Sometimes you never do, which is fine. But sometimes it may take a year or two, and all of a sudden, like, oh, geez, yeah, I met that person, 2 years ago at this event. And so it's the right thing to do. It's the human thing to do. It's the right way to communicate. It's how you build trust. Again, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what this exactly all these things that we're talking about are. And that's what's made John Maxwell so successful. He gives and gives and gives. He's always writing another book. Again, he's got another one coming out in May, as you know, High Road Leadership. But he's about that giving. And look what his business has done. I mean, oh my gosh, it's been huge. And yeah, he does sell things, of course he does, but in a way that's like people are hungry for it and search for it. And he realizes he's not going to impact everybody either. And I'm the same way. I want to find those people who do resonate with me, have some conversations with them, see how I can help them. And then if something comes back, all the better.
But I've never played real golf. I'm a miniature golf guy. So if there's more than one club involved, I'm not playing. But I play Tiger Woods on my Xbox. And I believe that in business or even on the course, you have to play the long game and the short game, because in business, if you're just playing the short game, well, if you're not playing the long game, you're never going to be able to get on the greens. And it's taken us 6 years of friendship to finally get together and do a show together. But it took time to build those relationships. It's taken time. It's playing the long game. So talk about long game, short game, total game.
Well, I could have pushed you, every month and say, hey, when am I going to get on your show? When am I going to get on your show? And it's like, no, it'll happen. It's if it's the right thing, if it's what's intended to be, it's going to happen. And that's so true with any. I've got some relationships I've been talking to people on and on for a couple of years about. I met them somewhere. They were maybe interested in some work to have me speak, whatever. And every once in a while, I'll reach out to them, kind of remind them that I'm there. In the meantime, I post every day on LinkedIn and Facebook and try to give some messages that might help people and all that. And just being patient. When I jumped off of the full-time gig in the corporate world and jumped into this, I had already spent a couple of years slowly building my business up. I went to a Maxwell event. I read a book. I went to his conference. I started talking to people, and slowly but surely things came up. I didn't cut the cord and then send out 1,000 emails to people asking for me to speak, because I knew that isn't how it works. I've always been a relationship guy. I mean, when you look at what I did in the nonprofit world, right? When you do fundraising, that's all about relationships. When you're recruiting basketball players to come and play at your university, it's all about developing relationships. You don't come in, ask them once and leave. It's that long game. At some point, you have to make the ask, right? Because you want the player, right? Or you want the sale. But if you think of it in terms of the long game, it's going to pay off a lot more in the short run.
And guys, if you ever get a chance to watch the movie Air, which I just watched, it was about Michael Jordan and how Michael Jordan actually got signed to Nike, and how his mother was so instrumental in him getting signed. And if you have to actually watch it from a business perspective, it's amazing. So guys, definitely check out the movie Air. It just came out. But, I believe that I'm a faith guy. I believe in my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without him, he's the CEO. I'm just working here. And, I'm in charge of the work. He's in charge of the results. So talk about, because I believe that once I started saying, God, it's on you. I'm going to do what I can, but I need your help. And just one touch of your finger can blow up my whole business. And once I started doing that, men of faith started just coming into my life. Now I have mentorships. I have people that are mentors in my life, mindset coaches. But it's amazing when you just say, God, you're in control. There's a God and I'm not him. So you're in control. So talk to us about how faith has affected not only your personal life, but also your business life.
Thanks. Yeah, Richard, I'm with you 100%. I was born Lutheran, kind of faded away from the Lutheran faith when I was in, probably college age and right out of college. And then when I was down at UW Platteville, met this young lady and she was Catholic, and I knew that I would have to change faith to Catholic faith, and I had no problem doing that. It was at a time where I was looking for something. I was in my late 20s, and I had found God at one point, but I needed Him back in my life, and that happened through our marriage and all, and it was a blessing. We raised our kids, and then I had this probably 8 years ago, gentleman come into my office, and we talked about he wanted to promote this event called Live to Lead, a John Maxwell event. And I said, well, you have to be a member of the chamber in order for us to do that. So we took 6 tickets and did an in-kind exchange. They got the membership. Well, long story short, we become great spiritual friends too. And we get together. He helps me a lot with my Live to Lead event. He helps me a lot with emails and some of the technology parts. And when we get together, we have some incredible conversations, not only personal and professional, but also faith-based. And it's and today's actually his birthday, the day we're recording this and showing this. So the people that come into your life because of this, and there have been others as well along my journey that have really blessed me. And he shared something with me at breakfast we had, I think it was last week even. He shared something with me about him and his wife and their 2 boys that was just, talk about trust. I'm listening. I couldn't believe in some ways he was sharing it, but I knew the bond we had, that he was very comfortable and I was comfortable in receiving it. And then while he's talking, I'm thinking, how can I possibly help him? And well, God put the thoughts in my head, and I guess I made a couple comments and said a couple things that he's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to share that with my wife. I think that's going to be helpful. So yeah, it's interesting how your life, shifts and, like a roller coaster, I guess, in some ways, or like on a boat on a wavy ocean. But there are people that come along in your life to help balance that out. And those were a couple people along my journey that have really helped me.
And it's amazing, as you grow, hopefully you're growing, but as you grow and whatever you do, you're using your RAS, your reticular activating system, that, whatever you look for, you're going to find. Like when I first started out podcasting, Gary Vee was my guy, Grant Cardone was my guy, Andy Frisella was my guy. But now as I'm growing, Ed Milet is one of my top guys. Patrick Bet-David is one of my top guys. Michael Francis, one of my top guys. And they all seem to be successful, but they all seem to be coming from a place of faith. So I think it's great as we grow that our 5, as we would talk about earlier, actually starts to grow as we grow. So talk about the 5, because I think, and I say this all the time, but I don't say it as eloquently as you do, and as your amazing teacher does. I tell everybody, listen, guys, if you're the 6th guy hanging out at the titty bar, getting drunk, and the other 5 guys are getting divorced, you're going to be number 6. If you're hanging around with 5 guys that have happy marriages, love their kids, love their wife, great in their community, you're going to be the number 6. So talk about the 5 how important it is, the 5 people you have around you now, whether physically or in your ear, because your mind doesn't know the difference. So talk about your 5.
Well, it's what you feed your brain is what or who you become. So like you talked about, if you're, feeding those 5 guys into your brain that are in the bar and have had issues, that's what your result's going to be. And I've been blessed. I've got a handful of guys. Tom is one who I mentioned that I know I can lean on, I can rely on, and they don't like coddle me. I don't want them to. I want them to challenge me. I've got 2 different accountability groups I'm with. One with 3 other gentlemen, and one's with 2 other gentlemen. And I would consider them, of course, that makes it 6. But anyway, that roughly that number, these are people we get on and we hold each other accountable. All of us have faith is a very important part of our lives, and we challenge each other. We hold each other accountable. As you look at Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team, the first one relates to trust. The second one is conflict. The third one is commitment. So all those things are important, and accountability is the next one, number 4. So all those things are important with the group that surrounds me. And I know if I had to, I could certainly give them a call. And if I was in jail, they'd fly here, or they'd be here in a minute if I needed them. And not that I'm with that ilk right now, but you know what I'm saying, there's people that you can count on, and they also count on me, and it's a great relationship, and that will change. But again, you are who the people are that are closest to you. And if they're living a certain lifestyle, chances are you're going to fall into that lifestyle. And I want to fall into a great lifestyle. And I've got plenty of room for growth, and it can shift, right? Like you said, you shifted your 5 that are close to you, and it can certainly shift. Matter of fact, one of the gentlemen in the accountability group right now, he's got a coach he's been with for a long time, but it's like he's at the point where maybe, I don't know if outgrown him is the right word, but there just isn't that mutually beneficial relationship anymore. So he's trying to look around and who's someone else that can help me continue to grow. If you're the smartest one in the room amongst that 5, it's time to find another 5, perhaps, right? So it can change, and it's not necessarily family members. Most likely might not be family members, right? But it's all part of that growth. And having that, whatever you want to call it, kitchen cabinet, advisory group, personal board of directors, whatever those 5 people are called, is critical.
You know, but now something you said, because when I lost about 60% of my vision about 6 years ago, and my hearing got a lot better, but not according to my wife. That's a different story. But I can hang on to certain words when people say certain things. And I have a member of my family, I'm not going to mention their name, but they always want to be the smartest person in the room. And I told them, I said, listen, I'm going to speak at a Richard Branson event at the end of the summer. And the only reason I'm invited because I already interviewed 6 of the people on stage already. I said, but when I go, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room. I already know what I know.
Yep.
I don't know what Richard knows. I don't know what the other 5 speakers know. So I always want to be the guy I don't know everything, but I'm going to sit there and listen, because I think God gives you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. But I also believe that you can't learn anything if you're speaking. So talk about that a little bit, because I know sometimes, especially in my niche, podcasting, you'll have a host that just talks over their guests. And I think the biggest compliment ever given to me was by Mr. David Meltzer, when he said, Richard is more interested than interesting.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I've had conversations with people and barely said 3 words, and I get a letter from them, that was the greatest conversation I ever had. Well, yeah, you talked for 45 minutes. But I think that's an important part, is just being able to give people space to talk and open up. So talk about that a little bit.
You can't learn when you're talking, right? That's what you said. I mean, it's if you're not willing to listen, and I think, you know, now the problem is we're only willing to listen. I guess maybe it's called confirmation bias, where we're only willing to listen with those things that reinforce what we think. And oh wow, is that dangerous? That is incredibly dangerous. I may not believe in a certain political view or faith view or business view or coaching view, but I want to listen to what they have to say, because maybe their way is better, or it'll help me further cement the way that I think. So yeah, and you can't see the poster behind me here, but one of the 9 panels on that, it's called Speak Your Piece. One of those is listening, and every presentation I do, I share that. It's called Speak Your Piece, the Civility Project. I share that, and we talk about each of those 9 panels because they are so critical to communication, and listening is one. And I'll even go into, okay, you say you listen, or you want to be a better listener. How are you going to do it? What are you going to do? Sometimes there's silence. Sometimes people will say, well, you know, they'll start talking about, well, I need to, you know, make eye contact or take notes or repeat back what somebody said to make sure they confirm it. But yeah, the fact that we've lost our ability to listen, and social media has had a part of that, because you don't have conversations, you have gossip and complaints, and some of the stuff that goes on there. So yeah, the two you've got two ears and one mouth for a reason. 100% agree with that.
And I tell everybody, there's a difference between hearing and active listening.
Yep.
Like when my wife talks to me, because she works in one part of the house and part of the room, I work in another. When she says something to me, I put my phone down, I take my reading glasses off, and I look at her to make sure that she knows that I'm paying attention. Because I remember when my grandfather used to have the newspaper here, and he's talking to you, and he's reading the newspaper, and you could just, his head will never peek above the newspaper, and you're like, was he really listening to me, or was he just going, yeah, and I think that you can't really build real relationships if you really don't listen to somebody. Because I don't have a great memory for names. But when I was with GNC, the reason our company went from 300,000 to 1.4 million in 3 years was, as soon as somebody came into the, like, say you came in one day and we had a conversation, you could come in 8 years later, I'd be like, bro, how's the four daughters doing? Everybody okay? How's that? How's your bride doing? And a lot of people are like, you remember that? I'm like, yeah, because I don't remember your name, but I remember your story.
Sure.
And it makes people feel important when you remember aspects that are important to them, right?
Well, it gets back to when you're talking about when you're speaking. If you go up on stage and talk about a few things that you learned in the audience, people are like, oh my gosh, you remembered that. And those little things that people tell you are so important. I try to do the same. I'm not as good as it as I get a little bit older, but try to remember those little nuggets about people, or the last time I saw them or engaged with them, so they really understand that I was focused on what they were doing and what they were saying. And you're right about different levels of listening. There is hearing, and one of the things we did in the last job I worked, we kind of had this unwritten rule that if you'd walk to somebody's door, their office door, you would first wait until they were done with whatever they were doing on the computer, because they were probably typing some message or doing some data, and you didn't want to interrupt their thought process. And then if you were the one at the computer, when you're done, you take your hands off the keyboard and you turn your chair, and like you said, you make eye contact and show them that you're 100% behind what they're saying. Those little, they seem like little silly things, but they really get back to that respect and trust and caring that we talk about. Take the extra effort, as silly as it may seem, it means a lot, but take that extra effort and show people that you're engaged. And then if you disagree or don't understand something, I had these 3 words. A company I was working with, the young lady I was working with, she said, use the term, help me understand. So rather than trying to argue with somebody, or just say, hey, help me understand what you just said, help me understand, because then that puts the onus on you. Help me understand, right? And I just need some more information from you to help you share what you just shared with me, because I'm not 100% I heard you right. So just some little tricks that you can do in terms of listening and asking questions of who you're listening to.
Now, for me, my goal in life is to become the greatest interviewer ever. It might not happen, but my goal is, now I'm even watching channels I don't even like, because I'm listening to the interviewer, asking him listen to how he asks questions, listening to their speech patterns. And then, like, I tell everybody, if I'm having you on my show, I'm going to say your name at least 8 to 10 times, because the sweetest sound in the world is Todd's name to Todd. And a lot of people, if I'm talking to somebody and they were like, you know what, Rich, I totally agree. And even if I wasn't listening, as soon as he mentioned my name, I'm like, huh? What'd you say? So talk about that, because a lot of people don't think that just saying somebody's name, or saying, I remember you were saying that, you're from Wisconsin, were you a Brett Favre fan? or
Oh yeah.
or were you a Rodgers fan? Something like that. Even just wait, you remembered that I'm from Wisconsin, and a lot of people don't realize that it's important to, like, when I send birthday messages, because I send my birthday messages every day on Facebook. I'll remember something about them, like a guy's favorite band was Kiss when he was a teenager. So I sent him a gift of the band Kiss, and I'm like, "Happy birthday, kisses to you." And he wrote me back. He's like, "Wow, you remember that?" And I was like, "That's what I do." And it makes people feel appreciated, right?
Well, you just turned it up a notch, Richard. I thought I was good sending birthday greetings, but you can remember people like that. That is awesome. But those little things make a difference. And the kind of the thing I like to do is I like to send handwritten notes. It's
Yes.
kind of like hearing your name in a way,
Yeah.
but also, sending a handwritten note to somebody. Hey, great to see you. Excited to learn about the next step on your journey, or something that happened in the conversation you can say. And who doesn't like getting a handwritten note versus all the junk that we get in the mail? So really personalizing it. And we think we're so busy. I hate that word. It's a 4-letter word. That we don't have time for things like that. Well, make it a priority. Make it a priority, like you're doing, to listen and take mental notes about people, so you can show that you care for them and that you respect them, right? And send those handwritten notes. It takes a little longer, but boy, imagine you know how you feel when you get one. Imagine how they feel. Use people's names, right? All those little things make such a difference, and we're not too busy to be able to do that. Those are pretty simple things that we can do and show people that we do really care for them.
And like, once we hang up, I'm gonna say, "Hey, bro, send me your mailing address. I want to send you something out." And I'm gonna send you a handwritten thank you note, a sticker, whatever. And that was something that Steve Sims taught me, that if everybody else is going right, maybe you should go left a little bit. Because I've had people, they'll actually screenshot the handwritten card that I write, and they'll post it on the social media. They're like, "I haven't received a handwritten card in 30 years." Or, like, if me and you ever meet in real life and go have dinner or hang out, you're going to get a big hug, because I hugged a guy at a conference one time, and he wrote me back. He's like, "I've never been hugged as an adult male,
Sure.
and just for you showing me that I let you in." He's like, "You wanted my credit card? Here's my credit card." He's like, "Just because you let me in and you let me know it's okay to be vulnerable." So talk about that a little bit, because I think the human touch is so out of whack today. And the only reason I bring it up, and I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent, but I think it really amplifies a point. When I was selling timeshares, when I first started, there was an older man. Now he's probably my age now, and he was crushing it. He was selling like all day, and I couldn't figure it out. And I got there one day, and I'm like, "All right, how do you do it?" He's like, "First, you guys get here at 7. I'm here at 6. I read all the local papers, and I read all the sports. So when I have Todd on my chair, on my table, we're gonna be talking about, what are we gonna be doing in this year's draft with the Green Bay Packers? What are we gonna be doing? What are you guys gonna be doing this year? How is the weather this year? Because I know it gets frigid in Wisconsin." And then we might talk about the Badgers. He's like, "But when I get up to get my coffee and I ask to get him something, I'm going to touch him on his shoulder. And if he lets me in, game over." Because if somebody lets you into their personal space, it's pretty much game over. So
Yeah.
talk about that, that personal touch, that little touch, that shaking hands, that real shaking hand, not that dead fish like this. So talk about that aspect of communication.
Well, the pandemic was so tough because I'm a hugger, handshake, and high five. I'm just like you, Richard. I've got to have physical connection with people, and whether it's sometimes you do a side hug, sometimes you do a front hug, whatever the case might be. Sometimes maybe it's a light punch in the arm, or a fist bump, or whatever the case might be. But you see the smile on people's faces. And by the way, I can't wait to have dinner with you and get a hug. So we'll have to put that on the calendar somehow. But
Oh, if it involves cheese, I'm in.
there you go. Yeah, we got a little bit of that. And maybe yeah, a little cheese would be good. But yeah, again, it's not that you're trying to be intimate, but I mean, it is an intimate thing to do to have that physical contact. And there's so much research that shows what like massage will do, and how people who are healing, and what do kids like? They love to snuggle up with their mom and dad. I mean, that's the first thing. What's the first thing that happens at birth is the doctor hands the mom the baby so she can put the baby on her chest and the baby can hear her heartbeat and get, so it's a natural part of us, but because of our, what's happened in our world, we've just like shunned that. And I think it's horrible. I think if we did more hugs, handshakes, and high fives, I think we'd be in a whole different place, and focusing on the listening as well. So I'm 100% in your court on that. And the more personal we can make it, again, the thing you have to remember, and we touched on this earlier, is everybody has a different style. Everybody has a different personality, different behavior. So you have to read that, because some people aren't really comfortable, even in church when we give the sign of peace, some people, still are, but then you still have to respect the person. You don't like roll your eyes and say, what's your, but yeah, the personal touch is exceptionally critical.
But and also and this is talking about home too. Like when I wake up in the morning, I go. My daughter's usually on her iPad, getting ready for school, whatever. I'll kiss her on her forehead, and I'll be like, "Good morning, beautiful." When I wake up in the morning and I see my wife, I kiss her on her forehead, and I just said, "Honey, I just want to let you know that I love you." I got a 22-year-old boy and an 18-year-old boy. They still come up, give me hugs and kisses, and I think that just lets them know, even with daughters, that listen, if my father tells me I'm beautiful and my father kisses me, I'm not going to expect anything less respect from any other man if that's the way my father treats me, that I'm valued, right? With four daughters, you have to feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I was gonna say my mom and dad are living independent living, and they're in town here where I live. And right now they're 95 and 94, and I still kiss them every time I leave, because you don't know if that might be the last time. I don't want to walk out that door and not have said, or not have kissed them and show that type of respect for them. And that's the same. My daughters are kind of are at that uncomfortable stage a little bit, but we're hugging. And I've actually taught my grandson. I've got a 12-year-old grandson, and whenever he sees Grandpa, he comes over and gives Grandpa a hug. That's the first thing, maybe the second, but the first thing that he does is make sure he comes over and gives Grandpa a hug, because that feeling, the energy you get from it. I mean, I get more out of it than I give. I think by the hug, it feels so good. So, yeah, you're 100% on, Richard, with that. We need more hugging in the world.
All right, so for the last little bit, because I believe that faith and gratitude make great bedfellows. Like when I go to bed at night, and this is a hack that I tell everybody that I use. When I go to bed at night, every night, I wrap my arm around my wife, even if she's sleeping already. I pray for her for happiness. I pray for her health, and I pray that the Lord knows I love her and adore her. I pray for my dog, and then I think of 3 things that happen in my day that I'm grateful for. And this interview is going to be one of them, guaranteed. So I go to bed with gratitude, and I thank the Lord for my day. And I said, thank you for giving me another day. Please let me wake up tomorrow. And when I wake up, thank God I made 100% so far. When I wake up, and if I could see something out of my eyes, because I lost 60% of my vision a few years ago, I say, Lord, thank you. And I sit up and I say, Lord, it's going to be a great day. I don't know what challenge you have for me. I don't know what gifts you have for me, but I'm grateful and I accept them all. So before my feet hit the floor, I'm already in gratitude. So talk about gratitude and faith, how they are great bedfellows.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know, have you heard of or listened to Sean Aker?
Yep, I love him.
Yeah. I do a leadership academy, and we watch his TED Talk, his 12-minute
Yep.
video on the happiness advantage. And actually, he was told he was going to speak for 18 minutes. As he's walking on stage, he's told he only has 12. So imagine that happening to you. But he wanted to.
TED Talks used to be 18 minutes. Now they're bringing it down to like 13 or 12.
Yeah, but he found out going up on stage, and at the end, he says the one of the 5 things he talks about is gratitude, and share 3 gratitudes daily. So yeah, I'm a huge believer in that. And when I get up in the morning, I've got my routine. The first thing I do is open my Bible app, and there's some things in there that I do, and I've got some Bible messages that come up throughout the course of the day. So I'm doing my best. I'm not perfect, of course, trying to stay focused on all those things. Getting my day. I start my day with prayer. I end my day with prayer, and that's a good bookend. And you know, like you said, you're 100% right now with God, getting up in the morning. So that's if anybody needs some statistics to prove that He works, it's that. But yeah, those are all important things. I guess I lost track of your question, but the whole gratitude thing. Again, there's not enough of that. Simple gratitudes. A birthday wish, like you said, you send a birthday wish
every day.
Simple things, you know, a hug, a high five, a handshake, a handwritten note. We've talked about, but the reason we're talking about them is because we want people to understand the importance of them. It's not about how many likes you get on social media. I mean, that's nice, but it's about that personal connection that you can make, because that's where the trust all begins, and that's where the communication has a jump start when you have that sort of relationship.
And for me, as far as marriage goes, it's hard for me to be mad at somebody I just prayed for. So it kind of just makes sure that I'm in gratitude for my wife, even though she drives me crazy. But if I just pray for her happiness and know that I love her, it's hard for me to be mad at her. So now this is a teaching podcast. So somebody's starting a brand new business. It's right now it's 2024. What would be your top 3 pieces of advice to help build relationships in their business? What would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
Well, I think first of all, you need to make sure you understand your why. What's your why in your business? Why are you doing it? What's your passion? Why does what you do matter? I would say the second thing is you need to reach out. Don't expect people to jump in your lap. You need to reach out. You need to get connected in your geographic community. You need to get connected in your whatever lane you're in that community. Don't look at people as competitors. Look at them as complementers. That you can learn a lot. You know, you and I have learned a lot from each other this afternoon. The third thing I would do, and I think we've talked a lot about that, is make it personal. Whatever you can do to make it personal. Reach out and help others. Give. Don't try to give and help others. Because we haven't mentioned the term servant leader, but that's another term. Be a servant leader and share that empathy with others. So those are probably my 3 tips, Richard.
Now that's normally the last question, but because it's you, I'm going to ask one more.
Okay.
I had my friend Simon Majumdar, Iron Chef. Now he's on the Tournament of Champions food, and on the Food Network. I had him on, and he said, you know, since COVID happened, we've lost over 100,000 restaurants in the United States. We got parents driving for DoorDash and Uber, and so we live a very busy life. And if I ask somebody to do something in 7 days, they're never going to get to it. But if I ask somebody to do something in the next 24 hours, they're more than likely to do it. So if somebody's listening to us and they're struggling with their faith, and I believe that, like I heard that if you and God aren't close, you're the one that moved. He's still there. You know, the Alpha and Omega will begin and the end. So if somebody's out there struggling with their faith, what is something they can do in the next 24 hours to find a little bit more peace in their life and to get that relationship back?
I hate to put somebody on their phone, but get the Bible app. The Bible app has so many applications, verses, different authors. You'll find somebody that you can connect to there and do it in a comfortable way. I guess that's the first thing that popped into my head. Like I said, I utilize that every morning, and different verses can pop up. And I like Craig Rochelle, and he has a number of packages, I guess, or readings that are on there. So I guess that would be because most people have phones, most people have apps, and that's the way you can, if you don't feel comfortable being outward about your faith journey, that's the way you can do it privately on your phone and still get some benefit and still get the real word.
Yep. I got mine right there. I got my Bible right there as the first thing I get my Bible verses as soon as I wake up in the morning. So, Todd, how do we find you? How do we support your mission? If we want to have you come and speak, how can we get into your ecosystem and get you into ours?
My website's pretty simple. It's my first name and last name.com. So toddkuckkahn.com. And there's information there to contact me. You can reach out through LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm active on those two as well. I'd love to, love to get on have a little chat and just get to know somebody. And maybe the time's right. Maybe I'm the right person. Maybe I'm not. But if we don't have a conversation like you and I have had, Richard, we'll never find out if we are or aren't. And maybe I'm not the right one, but maybe I know somebody. So yeah, just reach out to me. I'll get back to folks. Love to have conversations like this and others.
So what's next? What's coming up for Todd? What do you got coming on? What's coming up? Because now, you're really starting. I see you starting to pull ahead. You're starting a lot of stuff going on. So what's going on in the world of Todd right now?
Well, I'll be hosting again this fall the John Maxwell Live to Lead event in 3 different communities, which is really awesome. I'm getting more active on online courses and things like that, so that people can access me, kind of on their own time. I'm really excited because I've done 6 consecutive months of a newsletter. Now, I'm not saying the content is great, but the fact that I was consistent and I've been doing it for 6 months, I've really been trying to focus a lot on developing habits, the habits that'll lead to the things that I want in terms of my business. And that's been really helpful in my priorities too. So a lot of good things going on. And I look forward to, like I said, nothing better than than a hug from you, Richard.
All right. And I love it, brother. I'm so grateful for our friendship. Like I said, it's been 6 long years, but I'm finally able to get up to your level to ask you to come on my show.
Oh,
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And guys, I promised you that I was going to give you something guaranteed 300% ROI. Guys, if you buy my brand new book, $30, autographed copy right to your house, you're going to get over almost $1,000 in bonuses from me. If you're a business owner, I'm going to have you come on the show. I'm going to promote your show, your business to over 100,000 people. And you're going to get everything for $30. So if you guys want to get my book, you want $1,000 in bonuses guaranteed, I'll let you know how to do that. But guys, as you see, I wear this t-shirt all the time. I got more than one, guys. I promise you. It says, "Today I decide." I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. And something Joel told me, he said, every day we wake up, we have a decision. We can either be a victim or we could be a victor. And anybody that listens to this show is a victor. So guys, when you remember, we have a choice. When you wake up this morning, you could be a victim or be a victor. And I believe you guys are victors. I love you guys. Todd, my brother, thank you so much for your friendship and your mentorship all these years.
Blessings to you, Richard. It's been a great conversation. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Have a great week. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have an amazing week. I will see you next week.